Light and peace, brothers and sisters. Topic of discussion today is the God of Israel using a spacecraft. The God of the Israelite using a spacecraft. There's a misunderstanding in the Hebrew community and the Christian community. They don't believe the God that they serve in the Old Testament uses a plane or uses a spacecraft, just like in NASA. You want to move from one state to the other. So if you live in New York and you want to go to the state of Texas, if you don't want to use the train, you can use a plane. But we have the Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites, don't believe that their God used the spacecraft. And I was on Senator TV and he didn't believe it. So I'm going to show proof now without sugarcoating from the King James Bible. Unless somebody come back to me and say this is not true. So I'm putting this as a challenge, right? Explain this to me, okay? So I'm going to stop now, right? Explain this to me if this is not a spacecraft, okay? I'm going to start. So I'm going to go to the book of Apollo first. This is in OahspeCollegeUniversity, right? OahspeCollegeUniversity says in the book of Apollo, chapter 10, verse 12, Jehovah said, that's the creator. Now, this is not God saying it. This is not God. This is not a spirit. You could say a spirit, great spirit, or this is not an angel. This is not human. This is Jehovah saying it, okay? Jehovah said, I have given power to the spirit of the newly dead to clothe themselves from the atmosphere with corporeal semblance of flesh and blood. That means an angel could come in the form of a flesh and blood, could come just like we humans come. And to my exalted atmospheric angels, that means someone above an atmosphere who's, probably been a Lord before, who's been a God before, that would be an example, or who've ruled a city as a Lord, have given power to clothe themselves from ether in forms of light. But to my exalted interior angels, this is deep, I have given power to clothe hosts with ships of fire and octavans and other vistas. There's a spacecraft, just like in NASA. They want to move from one, they want to go to the moon, right? And then you've got, this is where I'm going to connect the dot in the book of Exodus, okay? So now I want to read these verses and you guys explain this thing to me. So I'm challenging the Hebrew Israelite. This even includes Saneda because he seems to not to believe in this concept, and that's okay. But if he wants to invite me to his TV, but if he doesn't want to, you can show this video to your Hebrew community and let them explain themselves. Put them on the out bench, Saneda. And also what you could also do is put them in your interrogation room. Let them explain this book to you now. This is from the Christian Bible. So I'm reading from Exodus chapter 19. Then Moses went up to God, and the Lord to him from the mountain and said, this was what you ought to say to the descendants of Jacob, and you ought to tell the people of Israel. You, verse 4 now, you yourself have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wing and brought you to myself. Verse 4, what is this? This must be a plane. I want the Hebrew community to explain verse 4 to me. It says, you yourself have seen what I did to Egypt and how I carried you on eagle's wing. This is not an animal, right? And if you're telling me this is an animal, so there must be a large animal that God was carrying Moses on verse 4, okay? So I'm just going to ignore that I didn't see that, but let the Hebrew Israelite explain Exodus chapter 19, verse 4 to me. What eagle's wing are we talking about? Now, I'm going to skip to verse 12 of Exodus chapter 19 because, there's too much stuff. I got to read this in and I have less minute. Put limit. So now, you know what? No, let me read verse 9. I'm going to continue. So verse 9, the Lord said to Moses, I'm going to come to you in a dense cloud. So the God of Israel is going to come to Moses in a dense cloud. This is clear so that the people will hear me speaking to you. So wait. So God doesn't come into our heart. According to this, the God of Moses doesn't come to the heart of humans, doesn't come to our spirit, to our soul, to speak, but he's going to come to Moses in a dense cloud so that the people will hear me speaking with you, and you always put in trust. And then Moses told what the people said, verse 12, put limit for the people around the mountain. You see that? So he's going to put a barricade around the mountain and tell them, be careful that you do not approach the mountain or touch the foot of it. Whoever touches the mountain is to put to death. Wait a minute. So if an Israelite, an evil Israelite touches the mountain, then God is going to put the person to death. So imagine what God will do to you in heaven. Verse 12, right? Remember, in the commandment, it said, thou shalt not kill. But you're just going to touch the mountain and God is going to kill you? Now, he is putting a barricade, a perimeter, okay? So I'm going to read through and then I'm going to drive my point. Then the Lord descended to the top of Mountain Sinai, and God went to Mountain Sinai. Listen to this. Verse 20 said the Lord descended on top. So that means God was, oh boy. Okay, so God descended. So he came on top of the mountain. So think it came on top of the mountain. So, and then God called upon Moses and Moses went to the top. So think about this, right? And then, so Moses went up and the Lord said to him, go down and warn the people, say they did not force their way through. So everybody, all the Hebrew Israelites, the Israelites now want to see God, right? And then the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, and the Lord will break out against them. Moses said to the Lord, verse 23, the people cannot come on Mountain Sinai because you yourself warn us. Put limit around the mountain and set it apart as holy. So they have a barricade, they, like a wall. Just like, how should I put this? Let's say they say the president of the United States, Joe Biden, is going to come to 125th Street, right? So this is life. This is life. So what they're going to do is all the police, the New York Police Department, they're going to put parameters to block people, and they're going to block a bunch of streets now because they don't want you to come near Joe Biden. This is the same thing that's going on right now. No, the people want to see, they want to see their God. They want to see their God. Oh, God is going to be on top of the mountain. They want to see God live. So imagine people in New York, they heard that Joe Biden, when the year 2022, damn, Joe Biden is going to come to New York. Oh, I want to see that president. I want to see my president. Guess what? New York Department Police, the NYPD is going to do what? They're going to put fences and barricades. They're going to block streets. They're going to block the street of 125th Street, and you cannot go through. This is life. What am I saying? Senator, don't you live around that neighborhood, 125th Street? Pose this to your brothers, to your Hebrew Israelite. Let them explain this to me. Verse 22, even the priests who approached the Lord, Moses said to the Lord, verse 23, the people cannot come up to the mountain stand because you yourself warn us, put limit around the mountain and set it apart as holy. Verse 24, the Lord replied, go down and bring up with you, but the priests and the people must not force their way through and come up Lord. He will break out against them. Verse 25. So Moses went down to the people and told them. So I'm going to jump to Exodus chapter 20, verse 18. When the people saw listen to this. When the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountain in smoke. Come on. So God is on Mount Sinai, and we got a thunder and lightning. Look at that. And they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, speak to us yourself. We will listen, but do not have God speak to us or we will die. So they're fearing, right? They are afraid. Now, hear this. Imagine if Joe Biden, right, the president of America, right, was going to come to 125th Street, not with a car, not with his car, not through the train, not with the subway. If he decides to bring a plane, now, what do you think is going to happen? the back of the plane. You know what? Let me use the NASA plane. Imagine if he's coming down with a NASA plane. If he's coming down with a NASA spacecraft, when the thing is about to land, there's going to be smoke, right? So this is the same thing that is going on. People are going to tremble. I bet you the New York police are going to run away. They're going to be like, no, man, what? You're going to bring a NASA? You're going no. Guess what? People are going to call in sick that day. No, you're going to, no. Even with a plane, people are going to be afraid. That's the same thing going on with during the time of Moses. Verse 20, Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. Yeah, the same thing. So in the morning, the New York City mayor is going to announce that we're going to have the President Joe Biden going to come visit 125th Street in New York. Please do not be afraid, because he's not going to come through by car. He's not going to come by car. No, he's going to come by the New York City subway. He's not going to come through the A train. He's not going to come with a 2 train, the 3 train. He's not going to come with a C train. He's going to come with an airplane. And if he's not going to come with it, he's going to come with a NASA spacecraft. What do you think is going to happen? The police are going to call in sick. Nobody's going to want to come to work that day. As a matter of fact, every environment, every areas on 125th Street where they say Joe Biden is going to come, all of them going to shut down the shop. They're going to shut down their business. Come on. This is the same thing. So Moses said to the people, verse 20, do not be afraid. God has come to test you so that the fear of God will be with you to keep you from sinning. So in order for God of Israel to put fear, he's got to come through a mountain, right? He came through a plane. Now, this is a plane. This is an anatomy, a behavior of a plane, thunder and lightning, right? And the people remain at a distance. You see, nobody want to come near. And while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was, Exodus chapter 24, and Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abiram, and the 70 elders of Israel went up and saw God of Israel. You see that verse 10? They saw God of Israel. Under his feet was something like a pavement made of labis lazuli and bright blue as a sky. Verse 11, but God did not raise his hand against these leaders. So, wait a minute, the God of Israel have a hand. Wait, yeah, that's what verse 11 is saying. The God of Israel have a hand, because he says he did not raise his hand against the leaders of Israel. They saw God and they ate and drank. So verse 11, wait a minute, God of Israel is eating with his people. So now we have a God that uses a spacecraft or plane, and then now he's eating. So we have a God that eats. What talking about? He's eating. He's eating food. They ate, and all the way, not on verse 11, not only did the God of Israel eat, they said he drank. So he probably drank water. Sanada TV, Sanada, talk to your Hebrew Israelites. Let them explain this thing to me. I'm challenging. This is a big challenge. Verse 12, the Lord said to Moses, come up on the mountain and stay here. Now I'll give you the tablets of stone with the law and commandment I've written for their instruction. Verse 13. Then Moses set out with Joshua his side, and Moses went up to the mountain of God. He said to the elders, wait here, for until we come back to you, Aaron and all will reach Aaron. When Moses went up on the mountain, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai. For 6 days, the cloud covered the mountain. On the 7th day, the Lord called to Moses from within the cloud. To Israelites, the glory of the Lord looked like a consuming fire on top of the mountain. Verse 7 says, so consuming fire. So that means looks like a spacecraft landed. Now, think about this for a minute, right? So they're saying this guy Moses was with the God of Israel for 6 days, right? So let's think about this. Imagine if Joe Biden came to the same 125th Street, right? I'm driving a point, and it came with a NASA spacecraft. Let's think about this for a minute. And that spacecraft, right, was did not turn off. So you're gonna have that fire underneath the spacecraft, right? Still like, And then Moses entered the cloud as he went up to the mountain. He stayed on the mountain for 40 days. And guys, light and peace, brothers. I don't know what to say no more. But I want an Hebrew Israelite to explain verse 4, Exodus chapter 19, verse 4 to me. I want them to explain verse 12 to me and Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 24, verse 11. Because God was eating with his people. And then let them explain verse 7, because the Israelites saw the spacecraft. It's a spacecraft now. Tell me if this is not a spacecraft. Okay? So for those of you who want to come back and say, oh, where's the proof in the OahspeCollege that God that angels manifest in forms of spacecraft? Here's the verse again, one more time. Book of Apollo, chapter 10, verse 12. Jehovah said, I have given power to the spirits of the newly dead to clothe themselves from the atmosphere with the corporeal semblance of flesh and blood. And to my exalted atmospheric angels, I have given power to clothe themselves from ether in form of light. But to my exalted interior angels, I have given power to clothe their hosts with ships of fire and octagon. Those are spacecraft. So explain this thing to me. Light and peace, brothers and sisters. Bye-bye now.